Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Strange Bar and Grill. We have two creepy, strange stories coming your way, but first things first, pull up a chair, make sure to tip that like button, and join the SBG family by hitting that subscribe button. All right, let's go. In 2012, 62-year-old Jose Molina was living in Los Angeles. He was the father of 6 children, and he had been working at Bumblebee Foods for about 5 years. And one of Jose's responsibilities while working at Bumblebee Foods was to load the massive ovens. It was about 54 inches wide and about 36 feet long. So he would load these huge ovens up with these massive pallets containing these cans of tuna, and it was basically designed to sterilize the cans, also to process the tuna as well. So at 4 a.m. on October 11th, Jose arrived at work. His boss tasked him with loading one of these industrial ovens up with tuna. So Jose, being a good employee, went and got through about 12,000 pounds of tuna, loaded them up on a pallet, and brought them over to that industrial sized oven. He opened up the oven, he was getting ready to load the tuna up, and he noticed in the back of the oven there was a loose chain kind of hanging down. And even though he knew he was not supposed to go in the oven for any reason, it was against safety protocol, he knew that, you know what, I can fix this in a couple minutes, so I'll just go in there real fast and fix this chain real fast. And as you can probably guess where this might be going. And a couple hours later, the supervisor came around and he asked the other employees, hey, has anybody seen Jose? I've been looking for him and I cannot find him anywhere. Has anyone seen Jose? And no one had seen Jose. They searched the plant, they searched everywhere. He could not be found. They looked at the workstation that he normally works at. They looked at the oven where he was loading up the tuna. Nothing. There was no sign of him. He just seemed to have vanished from the plant. They messaged him on the intercom. They said, hey, please come to the office, and nothing. He just did not show up. They went outside and looked. His car was still in the parking lot. Just like, where is he? He's clearly still here. His car's in the parking lot, so he didn't just leave work early and drive off. He's somewhere here. So after they looked outside, they came in, everybody was just stumped. They said, we just don't know where he's at. So they said, you know what, let's go ahead and give it one more search. They searched the whole building again, just scoured the whole building and could not find him until somebody said, you know what, there's only one place that we have not looked for him. We have not looked inside the oven, the last place he was seen loading up the tuna. So they went and turned off that oven that was in process of sterilizing and processing the tuna. They had to wait about 30 to 45 minutes for the oven to actually cool down. So once they finally opened the oven door, they twisted it, opened it up, and they saw Jose plastered, pressed up against the inside of the oven door. And of course he was trying to get out, but apparently he was cooked alive. So what happened here? He went inside to do a quick chain fix, but how did he end up getting cooked alive? So let's examine that for a second here. Earlier, like I said, he had the 12,000 pounds of tuna that he was loading up on a dolly. He noticed there's a chain kind of hanging down from the back of the oven, and typically they're not allowed to go into these ovens for any reason. Safety precautions, right? But he said, hey, I can fix this in under a minute. Let me just hop in there real fast and do that. So Jose jumps into the oven. He's in the process of fixing the chain. So as he's in this oven fixing the chain, his pallet is parked on the outside of the oven. One of his coworkers is walking down the aisle. He's walking down the aisle. The oven door kind of swings out kind of this way. So if you're walking down this way, you can't really see inside the oven because the door swung out and it's obscuring your vision. But he knew that Jose was trying to load this pallet of tuna into the oven. And he sees the pallet sitting there and he says, oh, Jose must have ran off and got busy and whatever. So trying to be a good co-worker, he says, you know what, I'm going to help Jose out. So let me just go ahead and finish loading up this oven real quick for him. And again, like I said, that door swung out like in this kind of direction. So he was not able to actually see that Jose was in there. So he loads that pallet up and just pushes it directly into that oven while Jose's still inside there. And again, Jose's in the back of this oven trying to fix that chain. So he probably the pallet just rushed right in. He probably tried yelling and screaming, saying, hey, I'm in here, I'm in here. Don't, But the coworker, these are huge industrial strength ovens inside of a big plant. It's loud. The sound does not travel very far. So the coworker just would not be able to hear Jose's cries. So Jose's coworker got that pallet in there, locked the door, turned the oven up. And again, this is not like a super like flash fire or anything like that. It heats up gradually, so it would have slowly started cooking Jose while he was in this oven. And these industrial ovens heat up to about 270 degrees. And again, it's a gradual increase in temperature. It just does not happen all at once. And this heating process takes up to about 2 hours. So for reference, a human body can survive around 200 degrees for about 10 minutes. And about 210 degrees, 215 degrees, your blood will actually start to boil. So that means, since this wasn't a flash fire inside this oven and it was a gradual heating up, that Jose was very, very well aware that he was being cooked alive. His blood started to boil around the 210 to 215 mark, unfortunately. And there's no kill switch from inside these ovens. So his fate was pretty much sealed at this point. And I'm sure Jose tried to fight. I'm sure he tried to kind of like slide between the pallet of tuna and get to that front. And I'm sure he was beating on that door, trying to say, hey, I'm in here. Please help me get out of here, please. And was pleading. But unfortunately, again, you're in this huge plant, these industrial ovens. Sound does not travel through these thick metal doors. And the plant is just loud and busy anyway. So if no one knows you're in there, they're not going to find you, unfortunately. And Jose slowly cooked to death. Ultimately, Bumblebee Foods was sued and they were ordered to give the family $1.5 million. And they also paid $3 million to upgrade all of these industrial ovens in their facilities. Now, I don't know if they include like kill switches from inside or some other safety precautions, but they did upgrade all their ovens because this was one of the worst cases that these lawyers and things have seen in their lifetime. On December 20th, 2019, 14-year-old Harley Dilly was on his way to school. It was the last day before vacation, and he was furious with his parents because the night before he got into some huge fight with them, and as punishment, they confiscated his cell phone. And later that afternoon, Harley didn't come home after school. So his parents being concerned, they contacted the school saying, hey, my son didn't come home. Have you seen him? Do you have any information about him? What's going on? Where is he? And the school said, yeah, he was here today. He wasn't marked absent. We don't know where he went after school. And of course, the parents called some of Harley's friends. They said, hey, have you seen Harley? His friend said, no, we haven't seen him. So of course the parents were worried, but they weren't too worried because they've seen this behavior before where they got into an argument with Harley and he decided to kind of run away for a day, go stay at a friend's house or kind of just hide out from his parents for a day. So they're very used to this behavior. And sometimes he would even sleep at abandoned buildings and things of that nature. It almost like he was trying to get back at his parents for confiscating his phone. That was kind of his way of kind of getting back at them. And the next day when Harley still hadn't returned home, his parents really started to get worried because he's never been gone for this long. And because the parents took his phone away, they did not have a way to contact him. So they finally said, you know what, we have to contact the police. This is getting out of hand. And the police launched a formal search for Harley, but there were just no strong leads and it was kind of going nowhere. So of course the family's doing everything they can do to find Harley. They're putting up posters all over town saying, hey, come home please. You're not going to be in trouble. We love you. We love you unconditionally. Like, just come home please. Just kind of begging and pleading with him, just please come home and let us know you're safe. So the whole community was out looking for him and there was just no trace of him. There was just no sign of him. And finally, after a month of Harley being missing, police actually received a tip from some homeowners across the street. So there was a home across from Harley's house, directly across from their home, and it was a vacant home. The owners of this house, I don't know if they're in the process of selling it or the process of renting it out, but they were doing some renovations to it. So it was vacant at the time. But basically these homeowners, they looked at their camera. They had an outdoor camera kind of facing down looking at their property, and they looked at this camera and they did see Harley after school walking towards their home. Now they didn't see where Harley went, but they saw him walking towards the house, like walking towards the front entrance. So they gave that tip to the police. They gave the police the keys to their home, and of course the police went there to investigate. And what the police found was shocking. So the police get the key, they put it in the lock, they unlock the door, they go inside, they're yelling, Harley, Harley, there's yelling up around the house and just get nothing back, get no answers back. So there's like, okay. So the police are checking the doors, they're checking, the windows. There's no sign of a break-in. So it's like, okay, they've seen Harley come here, but obviously Harley didn't have a key. The front door was locked. The windows weren't broken in. There wasn't no signs of someone using a crowbar to jimmy open the doors or anything. So it was just strange. So the police make their way upstairs and they find that there's a jacket lying on the ground. And they did recognize that was Harley's jacket. So they say, okay, well, Harley's been here. We found his jacket. And next to Harley's jacket, there's this weird metal plate that's just kind of laid on the ground. And it's like, that seems out of place. Why is that there? So immediately police are thinking, okay, well, we're one step closer here because obviously Harley's been hiding out in this house. We know that for sure. We don't know how he got in. We don't know when he left, but he's been hiding out in this house for some time now. And again, they start yelling for him again. This time they're on the second floor. They're yelling, Harley, Harley, and still silence. They get nothing back. And they head back into the room where they found his jacket and the metal plate on the ground. And they look up and they kind of see there's like a hole in the wall, and it's the same size as that metal plate. And they're thinking, okay, so obviously this metal plate came from that small hole in the wall, and they realize that hole in the wall is a vent, and that little plate they found is a vent cover. So now it's getting real strange, because now they're thinking, okay, there might be something more to this, something more dark and twisted going on here, and we have to figure this out. So the police, in their investigative minds, they're thinking, okay, maybe someone harmed Harley, and then they stuffed all the evidence into this vent, and and the vent cover fell off, and some of the evidence fell out of this vent. That's kind of where their mind's going with this one. So one of the police officers gets a stool, he stands on that stool, and he kind of reaches his hand in there, and he's feeling around. I feel something in here. So he kind of reaches in there further. And then he immediately kind of jerks his hand back out and he's like, okay, I felt something. I think there's a person in there. And it turns out there was a person. That person was Harley. They found Harley's body in that vent. And although no one really knows what happened to Harley, but there are some theories floating around, and this is one of the main theories of how he ended up in that vent. So they're thinking after school, Harley, he's still upset at his parents, so he's gonna run away and do one of those maneuvers. They believe he climbed up on the roof of that vacant home. He looked down in the chimney and there was no cap on the chimney. So from his perspective, he's thinking, he's pretty slim, smaller build dude. He can probably slide down in this chimney. Most people don't realize is chimneys aren't the same length up and down from the top all the way down to the bottom, in that they kind of taper off. So obviously the theory is Harley then lowered himself into the chimney, and he got about halfway through the more narrow portion. He kind of met that, and he was just never going to get his body through that section because it wasn't made for a human body to go down in. And about halfway through, he got stuck. Harley probably panicking. He's probably thinking, okay, I have this big jacket on. That's probably the issue here. So he takes off his jacket, and at the same time, he was right in front of the hole that had this vent cover. So he was able to kind of punched out the vent cover, and then he was able to squeeze his jacket through that vent cover, and then he was hoping he can still slide the rest of the way through. But even after taking off that big bulky jacket, it still just was not going to work. He was not going to get all the way down that chimney chute. So he took off his jacket, he slid down a little bit more, but he didn't get too far down. He ends up putting his hands over his head in an effort to make himself slimmer so he can slide down a little further. It worked a little bit probably, and he probably slid down a little more, but still this portion of the chimney is still getting tighter and tighter. So he just slides down further, but ultimately he could not move anymore. And as he kind of just kept sliding down further, it just constricted his chest to where he couldn't really take breaths in, and he ultimately suffocated to death. And this is a horrible way to die. I feel so bad for this kid. Uh, I just wish he did not try to go down there. I feel like people need to know more. You cannot fit your body through a chimney. And I see many stories of this happening, and it just seems like a horrible way to go. Because ultimately, what happens is you slide down. Your chest is kind of full of air. As soon as you breathe out, you scream or you panic. You kind of make your chest smaller, then you slide down a little further, and then you can't breathe in, and you ultimately panic and you suffocate. And it's just a horrible way to go, guys. Um, Anyway, that's going to be it for today. If you guys liked what you've seen, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, join the family, and keep suggestions coming in. And leave some comments for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I like to kind of respond and react to what you guys think and, get your feedback and all that good stuff. But anyway, guys, be safe, be good.